Will democracy survive in the next couple of years?
And essentially we are the same.
And there are so many needs that Minnesota has.
What people are saying they need right now.
Access to Democracy is made possible in part by a donation from Firefly Credit Union. Firefly is the new name of U.S. Federal Credit Union, which has proudly served the financial needs of the greater Twin Cities community since 1925. At Firefly, we guide our members forward and give them the power to chase dreams by delivering the financial solutions they need to get ahead. From checking accounts to mortgages, we'll light the way. We are Firefly Credit Union, and this is life illuminated. By Thomson Reuters, providing legal professionals with intelligence, technology, and human expertise they need to find trusted answers. Thomson Reuters, the answer company. Online at thomsonreuters.com. And Dr. Charles Crutchfield of award-winning Crutchfield Dermatology in Eagan. Acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians, a Minnesota native who trained at the Mayo Clinic, Dr. Crutchfield personally treats all patients and states that experience counts and quality matters. Crutchfield Dermatology, look good, feel great, with beautiful skin.
Welcome to this version of Access to Democracy. We have the privilege today of having our guest, Mr. Donald Shelby. And I am seldom intimidated, but I must admit I'm a bit intimidated having this privilege to interview. But the best way I can handle it is a way right into one of the most substantive issues. You know, we recently heard the State of the Union. Mr. Shelby, what is the state of journalism in the country today?
Not as good as it should be. There has been a backsliding in what I understand journalism to be, and I think what the framers thought journalism should be. And as it was once, perhaps 25 years ago, what it really was. And that's where the pursuit of fact overrides every other thing, overrides party, overrides individual personal principle, that the facts dictate everything, that the opinion should mean nothing. Now, as a jurist, you have to, you know the protection of the First Amendment. Yes. And one of the things that I have found is that there is a confusion when they see the right of the freedom of expression means that the opinion must be respected. That's not true. The right to express an opinion must be respected, but the opinion itself doesn't have to be. And so we see the papers and cable television populated by people giving their opinions on the news instead of providing the facts. You can trust the reporters in the field who are telling you what's happening in the various caucuses, what the numbers are. You can trust people who are giving you attributable information because it's either been taped or you see it in quotes. You can trust that information as being accurate. But as soon as it gets to what, not the anchors, I call them today commentators who host the shows on cable, they're allowed to have their own opinions, and the opinion should never be taken as fact.
But, sir, are you being overly idealistic? I mean, I've known you a long time, and you always identify yourself as a journalist. But you came to maturity at a time when, the Walter Cronkite era and the credibility of the press. I mean, but the history of the press is yellow journalism, whatever. Are you being overly idealistic, or should we accept your vision of reality?
Well, I don't want you to accept my vision of reality, but my version of the facts would only be an opinion. But I can elucidate facts for you that will prove my point. I won't go into great detail here, but the object of a great journalist is to, without fear of favor, simply say, once the facts are gathered and they have been verified and they are material and objective, to present those facts and then allow the public to make the decision based on those facts. Those people who hold a different set of opinions that may be at variance to the fact you're presenting can no longer proceed in the same route they were proceeding now that they have the facts in hand. They just can't do it. And I trust the Republic to do that.
See, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I used to be known as a tenacious person on getting the facts as they came to the court, always knowing that my chances of making a good opinion were always much better if I got a clear factual. But it doesn't seem to, I mean, there are too many people out there that seem to not put a value on facts. So my question to you would be, what can we as a consuming public do to make sure that this idealistic, yes, maybe view of journalism is what we have?
Well, stop being lazy. That's the first thing. Citizens aren't lazy. Citizens are participants. And that means participating in the intellectual process. What I'm trying to suggest is that a good portion of the population has foregone what was really important in our era, and I think in eras preceding us, that critical thinking was a virtue, that we didn't accept what someone else was saying unless we went through it with a fine-tooth comb and came out with a logical conclusion. Now, I want to be in your camp for just a moment. When you were a judge, a sitting judge, and you were hearing a case, and you went through voir dire, you went through the jury selection process, and the lawyers had strikes. Somebody didn't seem to like their client very much, or somebody was on one side or the other, then they would ask for a strike for cause because they held a previously held opinion that made this person guilty or innocent, one or the other. And the judge might intervene on certain cases where the judge says, let me ask a question of the juror. Can you set aside your pre-existing opinion in the face of new evidence that contradicts your opinion? Can you arrive at a fair conclusion? And sometimes they say, no, I can't. Or yes, I can. If I saw the evidence, I haven't seen all the evidence. Then seat the juror against the direction of either attorney. Then when the judge sends the people into the jury, into the deliberation room, the judge doesn't say, return with your opinion.
Yeah.
Return with your verdict. Return with your conclusion.
Based on the facts.
Based on the facts. And if more people considered themselves, in this republic, the electorate considered themselves in essence a juror, that they had to consider all of the facts before them and arrive at a conclusion, not an opinion. My opinion is he's innocent. No, your opinion doesn't matter. It's the conclusion based on what the evidence tells you. And if people thought of themselves in that way, then I think we would be in a much better position than we are today.
I'm going to push back on you a little
Please
bit
do.
here. Cable news.
Yeah,
Cable news makes it easy for citizens to be lazy
that's right.
because they can pick and choose, news that agrees with. So what is your opinion about this change in the journalism area with cable news? And I mean, I won't ask you to comment it, but you have people like Rush Limbaugh, who is over the top on opinions, getting a Medal of Freedom. So how do we deal with this? I try to be objective, but I tend to look at something that will agree with where I'm coming from. How
Sure,
do we
that's
deal with it?
simply put, that's confirmation bias. We are humans, and we will go to that outlet or those friends of ours of like mind. We are tribal in that way. We've always been tribal since Neanderthal and since Cro-Magnon. We will form tribes, and that's in essence what I'm talking about in terms of confirmation bias. If I have a set of opinions or a set of principles. And this person is telling me I'm right. That's exactly what I want to hear.
Oh, absolutely.
So I will tell you that MSNBC is as bad as Fox, because one takes one side, one takes the other side. CNN used to be in the middle in all of this. But I've noticed CNN over since the Trump years, 2016, that even CNN has become partisan. Everything that Donald Trump does is bad. Everything that they can do to show that he is bad is bad. They grit their teeth and they report the good economy or the rising stock market or the low unemployment rate among Hispanics and African Americans. They don't talk about that much. They might say it as a news item, one-liner, and drop it. The rest of it will be. Now here's the question I have for you.
Okay. Turn the tables on me.
Yes. The question is this. Did CNN choose to say these things negatively about the current occupant of the White House because they are seeking an audience to boost their ratings, and to consolidate the liberal side and try to take away from MSNBC? Or are they true journalists who, because of their training and their natural inclination, are ringing the bell of alarm, and they believe it is an important part of the job for reporters to say to the public, here is a clear and present danger, and that we must keep saying these things because Donald Trump, in their view, is seen as a clear and present danger to the democracy?
The answer is it's a mixed bag.
Okay.
You know how competitive this whole cable news thing is, and they pay attention. Is Fox up? Is MSNBC? And CNN kind of traditionally has fallen into the third tier between those. And if I were to watch CNN, I see it's kind of both. There are journalists on CNN who pander to the anti-Trump and and I'm going to get to this with you because that the snide smile or remark or whatever,
yes,
where they they think they're being clever or whatever, but they're injecting personality and view into it. I see some of that on CNN, but then in part I see them being pushed in the direction. You remember your colleague in the news media, Kathy Wurzer, says it's sometimes hard to do the news in the morning. There's so much bad news, but they feel an obligation to tell us this bad news. But I'm going to turn the tables back on you.
Okay.
As I watch the news personalities develop, they seem to put more of a premium on the chatter back and forth and the demarche. Did that bother you when they kind of tried to develop this, your friends type thing? And
yeah, the happy talk.
Happy talk. You got it.
Yeah, there were consultants who would come and say that in order to be more welcome in someone's home, they should consider you a friend, and
that's legitimate.
That's right, and there's a couple of ways you build friendship. You are entertaining, and you're funny, and people like you.
Well, because they're inviting you into your home on a daily basis.
Or they become attached to you because you're respected, because they respect you, and because you respect them. Dave Moore used to tell me that, don't ever forget, son, that you're an invitee into their home. They've asked you to come into their home. Don't make a mess. And if you make a mess, clean it up. Behave yourself in their home.
Now, this is a segue. There aren't.
You don't have to announce a segue, by the way.
No, I know, but I am anyway because there aren't people as old as I am who kind of remember Dave Moore, and I know you view Dave Moore as a model, okay? But you're a role model. But you're a journalist. Dave Moore's background was in theater, so how can you take Dave Moore as such a role model when his background is contrary to what your background is? Because
he was a master communicator. I thought, as a journalist, the facts were enough. Just lay the facts out, and that ought to do the job. Dave, being a more literary and more theatrical, understood that the best form of communication is the story, is to tell a story and let people vicariously understand the facts that are sprinkled and salted and peppered throughout the piece. They will still get the facts, but you've given them a package that they will remember, not a litany of facts. I'll give you an example. So we were anchoring together many, many years ago, and it was a 6 o'clock news. And I had the read on the county budget, and I said, and I'm looking right in the teleprompter, and everything's written right in the teleprompter. So I said, the county budget is $4,837,926,322. And then we went to commercial, and he went, "That was amazing." And I said, "What?" And he said, "That you could remember that long number like that." And I said, "What was it on the teleprompter?" And he said, "Give me the story tonight at 10. So we went back to the producer and said, at 10, he reads the county budget. So let me take this piece of it and I'll give it right back to you. So here's Dave Moore doing the story. Well, the county has passed its, he has his glasses here. The county has passed its budget, and here are the numbers. $8,485,637,289. Now, it's written up here and it's written on the script, but he was doing this, and you've seen him do it a million times. Well, okay, so that was the number. He said, people can't remember these long numbers, and if you think you can just look into the camera and say a big long number like that, no one's going to believe you. No one will believe you're authentic. So what I'm doing is I'm being a human being who can't remember a long number and has to read it off a piece of paper.
Okay.
And second, I'm being accurate because I'm reading, they're knowing that I'm reading the number. And third, I am definitely showing them that I want them to have the accurate number. Even though I could have read it off the teleprompter just like you did. So that's acting. You see what I'm saying?
But he's
that was
telling
the
a story
right?
that carries credibility with it.
He would do things like this, Mr. Justice. He would say look at the camera. He would say the Agua parade is, and it says it's going to start at 8:30, right on the teleprompter. The Agua parade is going to start in about 8:30. He'd look around the camera like you would sitting at your kitchen table to look at the clock, but there was no clock back there. There was no clock at all back there. Or he'd look at his own watch and he'd stare at it, and then he'd tell them the time it was going to start, or in about 15 minutes from now. And so being a human being, not just a chatterer of facts, I learned so much. Well, in fact, I have told his sons and daughter that everything that made me successful as an anchor, I stole wholesale from Dave Moore.
See, that's a segue into my next question, and I think you've answered in part. Is that how do you maintain this delicate balance of credibility, trust, personality, and likability? I mean, it's an art as much as a science, isn't it?
It is. And sometimes you can study art to figure out how that's, and the art of the spoken and written word. Who are the best communicators? Who are the best storytellers? And it was one of the things the I-Team leader who later became Frontline's chief producer, Mike Sullivan, passed away, the late Mike Sullivan, one of my great friends, said that when we do investigative reports for the I-Team, we're not just going to do a prosecutorial laying out of facts for a jury. We're going to tell a story. So every one of the things that we did was a story that in itself was entertaining in a way. And you could do what they call creative nonfiction. You could take it out of chronological order. You could foreshadow. You could use some of those techniques of great fiction writing, but staying true to the facts in each case. And so we learned how to tell stories that way. And that's why we won so many Emmys.
You might be surprised, but that's the way I viewed it as a judge.
Yeah.
I mean, I often got criticized about it, but when I would write an opinion, I wanted to tell a story so that people could understand why I'm doing what I'm doing in the opinion. I mean, it's the same thing. You want to tell a story so that they get the bottom line when you finally get there. You had a nice job. You worked with a good station. Was there any time that you ever didn't want to go to work, or it was difficult to go to work?
No. My dad often quoted Mark Twain in saying that he never had worked a day in his life. And my dad worked 47 years at the same place. Mm-hmm. Mark Twain never felt that writing was work. It was a joy. I can say unequivocally, Judge, that going to work every day at WCCO TV was one of my great joys.
Were there some people, reporters that you worked with that you found, inspiring, or you made coming to work a greater pleasure? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot. It's kind of a Sophie's choice, but
well, I can name dozens, but let me pick out a couple. One reporter that the audience may not remember, but he was the original member of the I-Team, and his name was Al Austin.
Oh, yes. I mean, Al Austin was, people had mixed reactions to Al Austin.
Absolutely, and that's because he had no fear of what the audience thought. He didn't care whether he was popular. He was just going to tell the facts, and if the facts were something that people rejected, and they rejected him as a result of telling them those facts, he didn't care. He was just saying, this is the news, folks. It's not my job to make up something that's going to make you happy. Here are the facts.
Okay.
And he was also one of the most gifted writers that I had ever seen. And so the way I learned how to anchor from Dave, I learned how to write from Al. And so his writing was beautiful. I mean, really beautiful writing.
So, I mean, that's one of the things, is it made probably people irritated with him. I mean, he could deliver something that they didn't like, but in beautiful prose.
Yes.
And understandable.
Yes. I use the this language thing in some of the current work that I'm doing because part of my job in retirement, which is not much of a retirement, I put about 40,000 miles on my car, a hybrid, by the way, to be a part of, I think it's, the last count was 13 different boards, and traveling to speeches working on climate change and working with communications with climate scientists. And it's so much fun because the scientists, of course, know everything there is, but they're so used to talking to other scientists, they're not used to talking to people. So I will take a look at what they want to say, and then I'll show them how to say it that doesn't make people confused and tells a story. And so I have to introduce to scientists what a simile is, and to put that in the life of an individual. So this is happening, CO2 is happening in the atmosphere, and it's causing the heat to be trapped in, like putting an extra blanket on yourself in the middle of the summer. Okay, now I don't have to be a scientist to understand CO2. I know what it feels like to put an extra blanket on in the middle of the summer. It's going to make me hotter.
Oh. Hey, we're having too much fun here. We're running out of time, but I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
I think that the audience would want to get the answer to. Many of us think you left the news too soon.
Thank you.
And I want to ask, what were the reasons, for leaving when you did? And then, is there life after being the persona and the anchor? So, come on, you left us and we wanted you to stay, and then what's life like afterwards?
Thank you for saying that, and on behalf of what portion of the audience would also agree with you, you and whatever fraction of the audience feels the same way, wanted me to stay. I don't think WCCO-TV wanted me to stay, because I was a tough guy in the newsroom when it came to facts on substance over style. But maybe in the first 25 years of my career there, being the leader of the reporting side of the newsroom, I won 95% of my arguments with management on substance over style. But then the pressure of earning money and selling commercial time and ratings became so big that it was more important to be popular than it was to present facts of importance to individuals. So in the last 2 years that I was there, I didn't win any arguments.
Really? You need to know how profoundly sad that makes me feel, that was the environment and that's how it changed. I think that they unfairly took away someone who was a credible deliverer of the news. So, but people want to wonder, is life okay for you now? I'm going to describe how I see it. You're an actor, you're a mentor, you're an advocate. And you're still a persona. So come on, I see you're wearing a purple tie. You're still, the old persona.
Down the middle.
Not down there. You're not red, you're not blue, you're wearing purple. But what's life like in retirement?
Well, I thought it would be a fishing rod and a hammock. That's what I thought retirement was going to be. And it turned out to be anything but. So I was asked coming down here, what percentage of what you do are the things you really want to do, the things you would put off. About 2% of my time is spent in those pursuits. The rest of my time, Judge, is obligations.
Really?
And I want to be kind about this term obligation. I've obligated myself because I owe such a debt of gratitude to this community and to this state. For forgiving my sins, for allowing...
We're running out of time,
Well,
thank you.
Anyway, I just want to say that I owe a debt of gratitude to this community that I cannot repay.
And thank you for giving back like you're doing.
It's my
Thank you
pleasure.
so much.
Thank you.